The 1960s and 1970s were golden years for television advertising. With more households owning TVs than ever before, companies had the perfect opportunity to showcase their products in creative, memorable ways. The commercials of these decades weren't just about selling products, they became a part of pop culture. From catchy jingles to lovable mascots, many of these ads are still remembered fondly today. In this video, we'll take a nostalgic look back at some of the greatest commercials from the 60s and 70s. Let's take a trip down memory lane and revisit some of the most iconic commercials of this era. The rise of television advertising. Before we explore individual commercials, it's important to understand why the 60s and 70s were such a crucial period for advertising. In the 1950s, television was still growing, but by the 1960s, it had become the primary source of entertainment for families across America. Advertisers realized that TV commercials had the power to reach a massive audience, and brands started investing heavily in creative and engaging ads. Some key factors that contributed to the golden age of commercials include the expansion of television networks. More channels meant more ad space. Then there was better production quality. Advancements in animation and cinematography improved the look of commercials. Memorable jingles and catchy tunes also made ads stick in viewers' minds. And lastly, celebrity endorsements. Many brands use famous actors and sports stars to promote their products. With this advertising boom, companies sought to create commercials that not only sold their products, but also entertained audiences. Many of these ads remain iconic to this day. Frito Bandito. The 1960s and 70s were a golden era for television commercials, and few were as memorable as the Frito Bandito campaign. Frito's corn chips were already a popular snack, but when Frito-Lay introduced the Frito Bandito in 1967, sales skyrocketed. The Frito Bandito was a cartoon character with a thick Mexican accent, a wide-brimmed sombrero, and a mustache that curled at the ends. He was portrayed as a fun-loving bandit who would do anything to get his hands on a bag of Fritos. The character was voiced by the legendary Mel Blanc, who also brought to life Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, and many other famous cartoon characters. The commercial also featured a catchy jingle.
Ay, 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 I am the Frito Bandito.
The campaign was wildly successful, but over time, it became controversial. By the early 1970s, many Mexican-American groups protested that the Frito Bandito reinforced negative stereotypes. After a series of complaints, Frito-Lay retired the character in 1971. Despite the controversy, the commercial remains one of the most well-remembered of its time. It was a product of its era when advertising was more experimental and brands took bigger risks with their marketing strategies. Though the Frito Bandito is no longer part of Frito-Lay's marketing, Frito's corn chips are still a popular snack found in nearly every grocery store. Today, fans of nostalgia still recall the jingle and the character fondly, showing the lasting power of vintage advertising campaigns. Hawaiian Punch. Who doesn't love Hawaiian Punch? This fruit-flavored drink was a childhood favorite for many, and its commercials were among the most entertaining of the 60s and 70s. The brand's mascot, Punchy, was a mischievous little character wearing a Hawaiian shirt and a straw hat. He was always looking for an opportunity to share his beloved drink with unsuspecting characters, usually by delivering a surprise punch to their faces.
Hey, how about a nice Hawaiian punch?
Sure.
The famous catchphrase, "Hey, how about a nice Hawaiian punch?" became a pop culture staple. The setup of the commercial was always the same. Punchy would approach an innocent bystander, offer them a Hawaiian punch, and when they agreed, he would punch them instead. The humor was simple but effective, and kids found it hilarious. Hawaiian Punch was originally created as an ice cream topping in the 1930s, but by the 1950s, it had become a popular fruit drink. By the time the commercials featuring Punchy hit the airwaves in the 1960s, the brand had firmly established itself as a must-have beverage for children. The advertising campaign was incredibly successful, making Hawaiian Punch a household name. However, as time went on, the idea of a cartoon character promoting violence, even in a comedic way, became problematic. The punchy ads were gradually phased out by the 1980s, but they remain one of the most recognizable commercials from the golden era of TV advertising. Even today, Hawaiian Punch continues to be a popular drink, though its advertising has shifted to focus more on the tropical flavors and less on the slapstick humor. For those who grew up watching Punchy deliver his famous Hawaiian Punch, the commercials remain a nostalgic piece of childhood memories. Cap'n Crunch. No childhood morning in the 60s and 70s was complete without a bowl of Cap'n Crunch cereal and its fun, colorful commercials. Created by Quaker Oats in 1963, Cap'n Crunch was designed to stay crunchy even in milk, a key selling point that was heavily emphasized in its advertising. The brand's mascot, Captain Horatio Magellan Crunch, was a jolly sea captain who protected his treasure trove of crunchy cereal from the villainous Jean Lafoot, a pirate always scheming to steal it. The commercials were animated in a fun, adventure-style format that captivated children and made breakfast feel exciting. One of the most memorable catchphrases from the commercials was, "You can't get away with the crunch because the crunch always gives you away." This phrase, along with the captain's cheerful personality, made the cereal a favorite among kids. In the 1970s, new variations of the cereal were introduced, such as Crunch Berries and Peanut Butter Crunch, each accompanied by new commercials that featured the captain and his crew embarking on fresh adventures. The brand also introduced new characters, including the lovable Crunch Berry Beast, further adding to the fun and excitement of the commercials. Captain Crunch remains a beloved cereal today, though its advertising has evolved over the years. However, the classic commercials from the 60s and 70s hold a special place in the hearts of those who grew up with them. The cheerful captain, his ship, and his battles against Jean Lafoot created a sense of adventure that made breakfast more enjoyable. Even decades later, many still remember the fun and excitement of those vintage Cap'n Crunch commercials. Whether you enjoyed a bowl of the original flavor or the berry-filled variations, there's no denying that the advertising played a huge role in making Cap'n Crunch one of the most iconic cereals of all time. Chrysler Cordoba. The 1970s saw a shift in car advertising, with companies focusing on luxury, comfort, and style rather than just speed and power. One of the most iconic car commercials of the era was for the Chrysler Cordoba, featuring the legendary actor Ricardo Montalban. Montalban, known for his smooth voice and sophisticated persona, starred in Chrysler's 1975 commercials, making the car seem like the ultimate symbol of elegance. The most famous line from the advertisement, "Rich Corinthian leather."
Here is the warmth of thickly cushioned contour seats, available even in fine Corinthian leather.
The phrase became an instant pop culture reference, even though Chrysler never actually used Corinthian leather in its vehicles. It was a marketing term invented for the campaign. However, Montalban's charming delivery and the luxurious feel of the commercial made the phrase stick, and people still associate it with classic car advertising today. The Chrysler Cordoba was marketed as a luxury car for the middle class, offering high-end design and comfort at a more affordable price. The commercials emphasized its sleek look, smooth ride, and premium interior. While other car ads of the time focused on power and performance, Chrysler took a different route by appealing to those who wanted a taste of luxury without breaking the bank. The campaign was a massive success, and the Chrysler Cordoba became a top-selling car in the mid-70s. Even people who didn't own a Cordoba remembered the ad, thanks to Montalban's performance. His rich voice and elegant mannerisms made the commercial feel more like a high-class invitation rather than just another car ad. Over time, the Chrysler Cordoba faded from production, but its commercials remain one of the best examples of brilliant car advertising from the 1970s. The power of a charismatic spokesperson, a memorable catchphrase, and a clear brand message helped make this commercial one of the most talked about in car history. Tootsie Pop. How many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? That's the question that has puzzled candy lovers for decades.
Mr. Owl, how many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
A good question. Let's find out. 1, 2, 3.
Thanks to one of the most famous commercials of all time. The Tootsie Pop commercial, which first aired in 1970, featured a curious little boy asking various animals how many licks it takes to reach the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop. First, he asks a turtle, who doesn't know the answer but suggests asking the wise old owl. The owl, in his scholarly glasses, takes the boy's Tootsie Pop, licks it 3 times, and then crunches down on it, declaring, 3! The narrator then states, "The world may never know." This simple yet brilliant ad became one of the most iconic commercials of all time. The character of Mr. Owl became a lasting figure in pop culture, and the question of how many licks it takes remains an amusing debate. Over the years, scientists and candy enthusiasts alike have tried to solve the mystery, conducting various experiments to determine the number of licks required. Some studies suggest it takes hundreds of licks, but the world may never agree on a single answer. The commercial was so effective that it has continued to air in various forms for decades. Even today, the image of Mr. Owl and his famous 3 is instantly recognizable. The success of this campaign proves that sometimes the simplest ideas can have the most lasting impact. Lite-Brite. When it came to toys in the 60s and 70s, Lite-Brite was one of the most creative and fun products on the market. The toy allowed kids to create glowing designs by inserting small colored pegs into a black grid that was illuminated from behind. The commercials for Lite-Brite were just as colorful and engaging as the toy itself. One of the most memorable jingles from the commercial went like this: Lite-Brite, making things with light. Out of sight, making things with Lite-Brite.
Lite-Brite, making things with light. Out of sight, making things with Lite-Brite.
The advertisements showed children using Lite-Brite to take pictures of animals, flowers, and even their favorite cartoon characters. The commercials emphasized how easy and fun it was to create glowing artwork, making it a must-have toy for kids. Lite-Brite's commercials also featured parents watching their children play, reinforcing the idea that this was a safe, creative, and educational toy. Unlike other toys that focused on action or adventure, Lite-Brite was about imagination and design. This made it stand out in the crowded toy market. Another clever aspect of the commercials was the idea that you could keep changing your designs. The pegs were removable, meaning kids could create endless patterns and pictures. The ads made sure to highlight this feature, ensuring that parents saw it as a long-lasting toy that provided hours of entertainment. Lite-Brite is still sold today, proving that its appeal has lasted for generations. While newer versions exist, many adults still have fond memories of the classic Lite-Brite commercials from the 60s and 70s. The combination of a catchy jingle, creative play, and bright visuals made these ads some of the most effective toy commercials of their time. McDonald's Big Mac.
2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions, and a sesame seed bun.
It's your McDonald's Big Mac. You've got to taste it.
Fast food became a major part of American culture in the 1960s and 70s, and McDonald's led the way with some of the most memorable commercials of the era. One of their biggest advertising hits was the Big Mac jingle, which took the country by storm. 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. This catchy phrase was introduced in 1974 and quickly became one of the most famous advertising jingles in history. The commercial challenged people to say the entire list of ingredients without messing up, making it both a fun and engaging marketing strategy. McDonald's had already established itself as a leading fast food brand by the 1960s, but the introduction of the Big Mac in 1967 helped cement its dominance. Created by a franchise owner in Pittsburgh, the sandwich became an instant hit. The commercials for the Big Mac focused on its size, ingredients, and of course, its taste. The jingle was so popular that McDonald's even ran contests where customers could win free Big Macs if they could recite it correctly. Schools, workplaces, and families across America took part in the challenge, proving that the campaign was a stroke of marketing genius. Aside from the Big Mac jingle, McDonald's commercials in the 60s and 70s introduced some of their most famous mascots, including Ronald McDonald, Mayor McCheese, and the Hamburglar. These colorful characters made McDonald's more than just a fast food restaurant. It became a magical place for kids. Even today, McDonald's occasionally brings back the Big Mac jingle for nostalgic advertising campaigns, proving just how impactful and lasting the original commercial was. The Big Mac remains one of the most recognizable burgers in the world, and its advertising legacy is a big part of why it became so famous. Green Giant. If you grew up in the 60s or 70s, you probably remember the deep, friendly voice calling out, "Ho, ho, ho, Green Giant."
To the valley of the jolly. Ho, ho, ho.
Ho, ho, ho.
The Green Giant commercials were some of the most famous ads of the era, turning what could have been a boring product, frozen and canned vegetables, into something exciting for kids and parents alike. The Jolly Green Giant was introduced as the brand's mascot in the 1920s, but it wasn't until the 1960s that he became a TV advertising sensation. Towering over rolling green fields, the Giant was a friendly, smiling figure who lived in the Valley of the Jolly Green Giant, a magical place where the best vegetables were grown. The commercials focused on getting kids to eat their veggies by making them seem fun and special. Parents loved the Green Giant ads because they encouraged children to eat their vegetables without complaint. The Giant would introduce products like Niblets corn, Green Giant peas, and mixed vegetables, always emphasizing how fresh and delicious they were. One of the key reasons these commercials were so effective was the strong brand identity. The catchy jingle, the Giant's deep, warm voice, and the bright, inviting visuals made Green Giant products stand out in the crowded grocery market. In the 1970s, the Green Giant Company introduced a new character to the commercials, Sprout, a small, eager-to-learn apprentice to the Jolly Green Giant. Sprout helped make the brand even more kid-friendly, as he represented the curiosity and excitement of children discovering the world of vegetables. Decades later, the Jolly Green Giant remains an iconic advertising figure. While his look has changed over time and commercials have evolved, the ho 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 jingle is still recognizable to this day. Thanks to these commercials, Green Giant successfully transformed a simple can of peas or a bag of frozen corn into something memorable, and made generations of kids at least a little more willing to eat their greens.
Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't.
Almond Joy. Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. This jingle is one of the most famous in advertising history, thanks to the Almond Joy and Mounds commercials of the 1970s. These ads brilliantly marketed two candy bars at the same time, highlighting their differences while making both sound equally appealing. Almond Joy, with its coconut, almonds, and milk chocolate, was for people who liked a little crunch. Mounds, made with coconut and dark chocolate, but no almonds, were for those who preferred a smooth, nut-free experience. The commercials featured catchy, upbeat music and showed happy people enjoying their candy of choice. The Sometimes You Feel Like a Nut campaign was a massive success because it was simple, fun, and easy to remember. The phrase became part of pop culture, and even today, many people can recall it without hesitation. The commercial's effectiveness lies in its ability to create a playful decision-making process for consumers. Another reason the campaign worked so well was the clear contrast between the two bars. Instead of making customers choose between competitors, the ad made it seem like they could easily switch between Almond Joy and Mounds depending on their mood. This clever positioning kept both products relevant and boosted sales for the entire brand. The commercials typically featured bright, colorful backgrounds and cheerful actors, emphasizing the joy and satisfaction of eating these candy bars. The upbeat tone combined with the catchy song made the ad stick in people's minds long after they saw it. Even today, the Almond Joy and Mounds campaign is considered one of the greatest candy advertisements of all time. The jingle has been referenced in TV shows, movies, and pop culture, proving that a great commercial can live on for decades. Coca-Cola. When it comes to iconic commercials of the 60s and 70s, Coca-Cola stands at the very top. The brand produced some of the most heartwarming and memorable advertisements ever made, including the legendary "I'd Like to Buy the World a Coke" commercial from 1971.
I'd like to buy the world a Coke and keep it company.
This commercial featured a diverse group of young people standing on a hilltop in Italy, singing a beautiful, peaceful message. The ad wasn't just about selling soda, it was about unity, love, and global harmony. At a time when the world was dealing with war and division, Coca-Cola's message of togetherness resonated deeply. The commercial was an instant success and became one of the most famous advertisements in history. Coca-Cola had already established itself as a leader in advertising by the 1960s, using catchy jingles, celebrity endorsements, and innovative storytelling. Another famous campaign from the era was the "Things Go Better with Coke" slogan, which was used in multiple commercials featuring happy people enjoying life with a Coke in hand. The genius of Coca-Cola's advertising was that it didn't just focus on the product, it focused on the feelings associated with drinking Coke. The commercials portrayed Coca-Cola as a drink that brought people together, created special moments, and made life a little sweeter. Even today, Coca-Cola's 1971 Hilltop commercial is remembered as one of the greatest ads of all time. It was later recreated in modern campaigns, proving that its message of peace and unity remains just as powerful decades later. Coca-Cola's commercials from the 60s and 70s set the gold standard for advertising, combining music, emotion, and storytelling in a way that few brands have ever matched. Which of these classic commercials do you remember best? Or is there another vintage ad that stands out in your memory? Let us know in the comments. Hit the like and subscribe button for more amazing updates. Thanks for watching.